For the testes, we saw it earlier that they are responsible for producing sperms, but here within the endocrine system, we are going to focus on their function of producing testosterone. And as we talked earlier, testosterone is very critical because it has some roles before birth and at puberty and even after adolescence. Before birth, it's responsible for development of external male genital. At the puberty, it regulates development on normal functioning of sperm, male reproductive organs, male sex drive. It regulates the development of male secondary sex characteristics like facial hair, chest hair, armpit hair, building muscles, for example, and so on. Small amounts of testosterone and other androgens is produced by the adrenal glands in both females and males. Ovaries are in the female reproductive system, responsible for estrogen and progesterone. Estrogen would initiate development of secondary sexual characteristics. In females, the development of the breast, for example, and they also regulate menstrual cycle. Progesterone is regulating menstrual cycle, both functions we saw in the female reproductive system. These are a list of hormones of the endocrine glands that they are produced by areas outside the hypothalamus and pituitary. Please look at this table. Here we have the glands, the hormones, main targets, and the primary actions. Now, there are other glands and organs also secrete some hormones, like the thymus. Thymus is located in upper chest over the heart. Thymus is very large at kids, but as we getting older in age, it has very minimum role. It secretes two hormones, thymosin and thymopoietin. Both are important in maturation of T lymphocytes. We have also the pineal gland. This is located within our brain. It secretes melatonin. Melatonin is very important in the sleep cycle. It makes us understand the night and day and make us feeling sleepy and have a good sleep. Heart secretes a very important hormone called atrial natriuretic hormone that would regulate sodium levels and regulate blood pressure. Digestive system secretes different hormones, gastrin secreting cholecystokinin. All of them have effects on stomach, pancreas, and the gallbladder. Kidneys, as we said earlier, produces erythropoietin that stimulates the production of erythrocytes, that is the blood cells. Also, kidneys will produce something called renin. This will stimulate aldosterone secretion, and that would lead to increase or decrease the blood pressure. Depends on the mechanism that is being activated. There are two different mechanisms associated with renin. So these are different organs, different organs producing different hormones. This table summarizes them. Now let's see some orders or disorders of the endocrine system. The first one, we have the diabetes mellitus. That's the disorder of blood sugar regulation. Here we have inability to get the glucose into cells where it can be used, and as a result, glucose blood levels would increase. As they increase, we will have glucose and excess water appear in the urine. This would lead to abnormal metabolism of carbohydrates, proteins, and lipids, and that would lead to most of the complications. Symptoms include dehydration, thirst, fatigue, frequent infections, blurred vision, tingling of hands and feet, and we have two types, type 1 and type 2. Type 1 diabetes, in this case the pancreas does not produce enough insulin, so this is insulin dependent diabetes. It will be treated with insulin injections. Usually it's a result of autoimmune destruction of beta cells. And maybe there is some genetic component to it. And this would set around 5 to 10% of all cases of diabetes. Type 2, it's non-insulin dependent. Here we have insulin, but that insulin is inactive. So there is insulin resistance. Cells fail to respond to appropriately to insulin. This is usually seen in adults over 40, and diet, exercise would play a major role in it. Treatment, usually it's lifestyle changes, and sometimes some medication. And 90 to 95% of diabetes are type 2 diabetes. Another disorder is something called hypothyroidism. This is underactivity of thyroid gland. In children, this will cause a disease called cretinism. Here we have slow body growth, altered brain development, delayed puberty. In adults, it will cause something called myxedema. So we will have edema, accumulation of water in the tissue. Lethargy, this is like laziness. Patients are always tired. Weight gain, low basic metabolic rate. And in case there is hyperactivity of thyroid gland, we will have hyperthyroidism. This is increased BMR, hyperactivity, nervousness, agitation, weight loss, and that would might be contributed to something known as Graves' disease. This is autoimmune disease and autoimmune form of the overactivity of the thyroid gland. Adrenal gland, there are several disorders associated with it. The first one is Addisons disease. Here we have a failure of adrenal cortex. There is hyposecretion of cortisol and aldosterone. This will lead to lower blood glucose and sodium. That will lead to to develop chronic fatigue, weakness, abdominal pain, weight loss, bronzing of the skin. All of them are symptoms of Addisons disease. Another adrenal gland disease called Cushing's syndrome. Here we have excessive cortisol secretion, excessive production of glucose from glycogen. So the body would retain too much salt and water. That would lead to loss of muscle mass and the changes in fat distribution. And we will have similar symptoms seen with the use of cortisol and cortisol-like drugs, especially in athletes. And for example, this disease would characterized by accumulation of fat at the back of the patients, at the back of the neck in these patients. Another type of disorders of the endocrine system, the hypogonadism, abnormally low testosterone levels. Prior to birth, this would result in ambiguous, undeveloped, or female genital. We're talking about males. Prior to adolescence, result in delayed or incomplete male sexual maturation. Adult male may result in, if there is hyposecretion of testosterone, low sperm count, erectile dysfunction, unusual fatigue, decreased sex drive, depression, and usually treatments would be testosterone replacement therapy. Okay, I believe that was the last slide. Please post your comments, your thoughts, your videos in the forum, and we will talk about this more in the lab.